guys? Welcome back to the Girls Lounge with your hosts Liz and KT. And today we are going to be telling you spooky stories. We have some really good paranormal and just really spooky stories for you guys today. So stay tuned for that. But until we get to that, we'll give you guys our basic segments. And today we are very much both in bed. And now that I finished the intro, I'm going to put back my blanket on because it is freezing. It is very early, and we're emulating sleepover vibes for telling spooky stories.
Exactly. We planned this. It doesn't have anything to do with it being early. It's just this is for the spooky vibe, like getting under your covers, a little scared. That's totally what we were going for.
Exactly. But what we've been up to, so literally this past weekend, I had almost the perfect fall weekend. It would have been perfect if we had Jill. But other than that, it was like the most amazing weekend. It was very much needed. It was me, Kelsey, Elizabeth. We went to like this pumpkin spooktacular thing. I forgot what it's called. But I think it's like jack-o'-lantern spectacular. I don't know, something like that in Louisville, where it's like a little like walking trail and it's like all these pumpkins. It was really cool, but like if you're like a Kentucky native or like even Indiana, um, is it worth almost the $30? I would say no. But let me tell you something that's really worth the money. We went to Eckerd's, like pumpkin patch or whatever, family orchard in Versailles, Kentucky. And you guys, it was only like $11 for like a basic fee. And it was so worth it. We had the best fun going out, picking apples. We went to the pumpkin patch part two. We did the corn maze. We petted not zoo animals, farm animals. We fed them. We bought some stuff from the little store they had. So it was a really fun fall day. And based off us picking apples, I picked 3 apples and I baked some apple pie muffins with them, and they were pretty good. I would give it a 6/7 or 6.5 out of 7 out of 10 for my score rating, just because I feel like the dough itself obviously like doesn't really have much flavor, but like when you get the apple pieces, it's pretty good. But that's what I would give it. But yeah, just a really perfect fall weekend, and it filled my soul with everything happiness. So I was really happy that we did it.
Yes, we finally had fall literally in a weekend, just everything fall, pumpkin patch, hayride. It was a lot of fun. My favorite part of it all was they had in like concession stand. When I tell you guys, this concession stand had a long line. Like they closed for like an hour. We made sure we were at the front of the line before it like got really long again. But they had this like slushy apple cider. You guys, it was fire. I literally went back in the line when it was long to get another one. It was so good. And honestly, the prices weren't bad, I feel like, for it being like a concession stand type stuff. Because I feel like normally that kind of thing is very overpriced, but it wasn't bad prices at all. And then one thing that Kennedy didn't tell you guys is we are not cut out to be Pinterest girlies. But when we were apple picking, we like pulled up our Pinterest and we are like, okay, like let's try to get like these cute pictures. There's one with it's like the the pumpkin, like, but we did apple like covering the face, one like leaning down on the ground, one like kind of like leaning up trying to get the apples. We try to do it all. You guys, what the Pinterest girlies don't tell you is that it is a group effort because we were struggling. Only some of them like kind of turned out like the vibe, with some editing they were better, but we should have just stuck to what we know, just regular old pictures. I don't even think we got a picture together because we were trying to do like the Pinterest thing. But yeah, the Pinterest girlies don't tell you that it is a group effort to get the pose, to get the lighting. There was one photo where it was like me and Kennedy, like one of us was holding like the inspo pic, one of us was trying to like get the angle and like the lighting. Yeah, it's rough out there. It's hard to try to be Pinterest girlies. But yeah, we just had that. It was a lot of fun. And I think that's like literally all that I did this past week.
Yeah, literally same. I've just been doing school, but let's not talk about school. She's irritating me. But yeah, and also about the Pinterest girl thing. I'm like, I think I'm more of a videographer than a photographer, maybe. Like I feel like I can always get in a cute aesthetic video or maybe an aesthetic photo if it's like not a person, but like when it's like a person, like just getting like the perception right, the angle right, the lighting. I'm just like, yeah. And I'm like, we're definitely seeing a more edited version of what these Pinterest girlies are going through. But I'm just like, they make it look so easy. And I feel like that's part of the magic, probably, that they make it look so easy. But yeah, once we stuck to our basic poses, it was like, okay, this is what we should have been doing. But yeah, so Pinterest poses, you won't be seeing us for a while.
Then we're gonna go into our favorites of the week. You guys, I know last week I mentioned that I had decided to start the ACOTAR, or just like the Sarah J. Maas universe. And when I tell you I am hooked, I just finished this week book two. I've read a book a week. Granted, I've only read two because I've only like finished the first two books, but I finished ACOTAR and I was like, okay, like it was okay, you know, like nothing like crazy. A Court of Mist and Fury though has consumed me. Chapter 54. Yeah, you guys, I am like actually consumed. The edits I've seen on TikTok. I even started following this like AI account that's been doing like um a couple of chapters in like AI, but they capture it so well. And sometimes I'm like, I need this because my imagination when I'm reading isn't that like elaborate and crazy. It doesn't capture all. So I need a visual reference. But I started following them because I was like, this is so good. I need to know. I need to know more. I need to see more. Yeah, I am consumed. I am going to go to the bookstore today and get book three because I've been like trying to like support my local bookstore instead of doing like Amazon where it's cheaper. So I'm gonna go get book three in person today, and I am consumed. I understand the hype now. Truly get through book one to get to book two because book two I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah. Let me stop before because I can just keep on going about this.
Yeah, y'all, Liz about to convince me to read this book, like that be on my winter CBR. So TBD when I get to that book series. But my favorite of the week is this podcast called Good Noticings with Claire Parker and Ashley Hamilton. I have talked about this podcast before, but that was like before they rebranded. They used to be Celebrity Memoir Book Club, but then they rebranded to Good Noticings. And basically, it's like my perfect podcast because it's a perfect mix of pop culture talk, but also like real life, what's going on in the news topics. Like, hold on, I'm gonna go to an episode real quick and like tell you guys literally what they covered. And I'm like, that's literally me in a nutshell. Okay, so the one I'm currently listening to, they literally are talking about freaking even like Dua Lipa, Katy Perry, but then also talking about Zoran Mondani and the Democratic Party, and then again about Mel Robbins. So just very like pop culture, but also like in the news stuff, which I really like because I just enjoy their takes on stuff, even if I don't necessarily agree with everything. It's just really interesting to hear. Now we're gonna get into Sports Corner to talk about the Mexico Grand Prix.
Yeah, this Mexico Grand Prix, you guys. Wait, let me start that. Let me not call it a Mexican Grand Prix. That sounds offensive. Okay. Um, wow, the Mexico Grand Prix, you guys, was something else. First off, let me just say the looks that I saw from Alex and this other influencer I follow, Morgan Ritter. Yep, the looks ate. But and I'm wearing red today for the flag, and because for my Ferrari, because let's just say qualifying was such like leaving qualifying, I had such good hopes for the day. I literally texted Liz. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna be set. Like, this is my dream starting position." Totally Lando P1, and then the two Ferraris right behind him. I said, "Yep, we were gonna eat so bad." And I have full confidence on all three of them for like having strong starts and not compromising those positions. But the race, turned out a little bit different than we all could expect. But turn one of the race, so I actually missed the first 10 laps of the race. So my recollection of this might be a little choppy or not make sense or be kind of not as well informed, but from what I saw in the replays, it was insane. Like Max, the Ferrari, so many people going off road, which I can't remember which incident. It seemed like a lot of incidents happened within the first 10 laps, but Lewis did end up getting a 10-second penalty. And yeah, it made him run down the pack, and it just made me so mad. It's a lot of contention right now online on like why was Lewis given a penalty but not Max or like even Charles, because it's like I don't want Charles or Lewis to get a penalty, but it's like from the FIA standpoint, it would have if you're going to penalize Lewis for this, why not penalize everyone else? You know what I mean? They're not helping the allegations that they hate Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, because why were a lot, not I wouldn't say the majority of this race, but I feel like a lot more of this race compared to other races was spent in the grass. We were not on the track, we were on the grass. So yeah, that was very interesting, and I definitely I do side eye the FIA because like Kennedy said, why aren't we penalizing everyone equally? Or if we're not going to penalize everyone, then let's not penalize Lewis. And I feel like this is like more contentious, or like it's getting a lot of backfire more than like other FIA calls, just because like it's not the first time that they've done this to Lewis. I feel like done him dirty in their calls and everything, and done him dirty and not other people dirty. So I think it's really interesting. All I know is it's on site for me, for all the FIA people, because like Kennedy, I was so excited for the quali for P1, P2, P3 and everything, the standing. And then I was like, finally, like, like Lewis, everybody, he hasn't had like his like moment, like he's like adjusting to the new team, the new car and everything. I was like, finally, like he's up there. This is going to be his moment, his race. And then this happens. So yeah, I'm very salty for Lewis.
Right, and I'm like, why is Max always at the scene of the crime? I feel like Max and Lewis, every time they battle each other, because I mean, you have like two greats battling each other. I feel like it always happens that Lewis ends up getting a penalty, and it's just like, ugh, oh my gosh. I'm like, you guys just need to stay away from each other on the track because it's gonna make me not like Max. But yeah, so that's like a big contention. But I will say it did seem positive because I did see that Ollie Behrman was up there. When Liz texted me, at first I thought, when she texted me, I thought he hadn't pitted yet, but I realized like, oh, like he actually like you're in his position right now, because I was getting confused because again, I lost the first 10 laps. I didn't see those live, but yeah, so that was like a really good drive from Ollie Behrman. Unfortunately, Max past him, which I was really sad about, because I'm like, if Lewis can't have it, I would have loved to see another rookie on the podium. And he was so close, but he didn't get it. But this was his best finish in F1 P4, which is actually insane, especially in a Haas. I feel like they have been doing pretty good this season.
Yes, I feel like all around, like the rookies, I feel like they did their thing. Like Kimmy was also up there. So happy for Ollie. Like I feel like we're at that point in the season where we're past the halfway point, and like the rookies are really like they're used to the cars, they're used to the team, used to like how to drive and everything in the new cars, and it's finally like starting to show. So I'm very excited for the rookies. I think it'll be very exciting next season seeing them, because they will definitely have a lot of improvement, and I think it'll just make it a lot more challenging and a lot of like what ifs, for the races.
Yeah, and also speaking of rookies, Gabriel Bortoleto, he also finished in the top 10. So did Kimmy. Isaac was back in the pack, but I think both RBs kind of had a rough weekend. I'm pretty sure Lawson DNF'd. I think Sainz might have DNF'd at the end, or something happened with his car at the end, and there was a virtual safety car ending, which I was happy about because I think Max was on the hunt to get to overtake Charles, and Hulkenberg DNF'd. I'm not sure from what at this moment. And I feel like I think it was Alonso, I believe. So the Aston Martins, I mean, I would love to root for them, but they have just had a rough season. But another thing, speaking of rookies, I don't know. I always love seeing when they call them rookies. I really don't know what to call them. Like, I guess they're like their development drivers, like their testing tester drivers drove an FP1 for Mexico. This was like a very popular race for them to put those drivers in place, because they're required for like a certain number of races to have these drivers actually driving a certain F1 car. So of course we had our king, Pato O'Ward. I always love seeing him. And then this other guy, I forgot his name at this current moment, but he is in the talk of potentially driving in either the second Red Bull seat or in Red Bull Racing Bulls. So that could be interesting. I know a lot of people like this kid, but so that's also something fun to know about this weekend.
And we ended up in Mexico with a Lando P1, and then we had Charles P2, and then Max P3. And this race actually in the like driver like championship, it put Lando above Oscar Piastri, because they've been battling it out, and it's crazy, like the difference is only 1 point between both of them. And honestly, Max is still like pretty close. Like I honestly not that I'm like not rooting for the McLarens, but I think it would take everyone by storm and like just like completely blindside everyone if Max came out of nowhere and like won it. I think it would be very interesting, but I am rooting for the McLarens.
Yeah, so they're 1 point ahead. We'll see. The next race is Brazil, so we'll see what that results in. I mean, I was about to say math. Max is definitely still in the fight. It seems like Piastri has definitely kind of lost his competitive edge at this point in the season, which I'm a Piastri girl as well, but like I feel badly want Lando to win the championship because he's just been with McLaren for so long. Like that is his team, but yeah, I'm really excited that Lando had this win. I really wanted him to win this race going into the weekend, so I'm happy about that. But we'll see what happens in Brazil. I don't know necessarily what's going on with Oscar. He's never been the best qualifier. That's something he's always struggled with, and he's not the best at tire management during the race. But I feel like that is kind of like expected. Like I feel like Oscar's not new to F1, but this is only his like second or third season in F1, so like it makes sense that he's like still figuring these things out. Especially this is their first year with their car being like super strong. So yeah, so I feel like Oscar's not a rookie. Obviously, I feel like he's still it's still in his early days of his F1 career. I would say compared to Lando, who's a bit more of a vet, you could say. So yeah, we'll just see how the rest of these races pan out. I feel like for Max to win, it will really take a super bad weekend for McLaren, which I mean, anything can happen, but I personally cannot see that happening because I feel like if one's not strong, the other one is, vice versa. So we'll see. I really hope we see. Look, I wouldn't mind just seeing Oscar and Lando battle it out for the rest of the season in the sense of like every weekend it's like they're switching who's first in the drivers championship. So I would love to see that. But I was also happy to see Charles on the podium. Of course, happy for Behrman. And let's see. And I'm looking on Instagram right now, and apparently Lando won by half a minute of the race. That was the gap between first and second, which is doesn't sound like a lot, but like when you see the gaps like in real time on video, it is actually crazy. But yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty positive weekend for McLaren, and I would say even Ferrari, they actually moved up in the team championship, which is like something important because for those who don't know, where you and in the team standing, that means the more money you get. So Ferrari has surpassed Mercedes. Ferrari and Mercedes are separated by 1 point. Ferrari has 356 points, Mercedes 355. So that's really exciting to kind of see like that battle as well. And yeah, it's actually crazy that McLaren has 730 points. Like, no one is getting them. So, definitely a very eventful weekend. I'm super excited to see what my F1 podcast had to say about this race. And I'm excited for Brazil. And next week, we will break down our drivers for Brazil and our updates on our points. And that's the end of Sports Corner.
And now we're gonna get into what we've been watching. Sadly, again, no pop culture. The girlies, I guess, it's getting cold outside. They're staying inside, so that means no more drama. But me and Liz both watched the same things this week. So first, we're gonna talk about the Love Is Blind finale. When I tell you, so Liz texted me and Joe, and she was like, "You guys have to watch this. Like, hurry up and watch it. Like, it flies by so quick." And she was not lying. Like, literally, I was like two weddings in deep. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I just looked to see how much time I have because I was watching it before class. I was like, only 24 minutes? What do you mean? So we only saw three couples make it to the altar, make it to the wedding, and none of them made it out. You guys, I was actually shook. I'm like, this is the worst Love is Blind season. This is like the first season where no one has gotten married. So that's insane. So the first wedding that we saw was Ellie and Anton, which for me, it was a surprise to me that Ellie said no because I mean literally we saw her say to the camera, like, I'm ready to say yes. Going up to like when she first pulled up to the wedding venue and they were interviewing her. So I'm thinking something just must have changed after talking to her sisters and walking down the aisle. and we saw Anton. He was like fully in, and I feel like me and Elizabeth had talked about this. Like we were getting the energy like they were gonna both say yes, but like it wasn't gonna last in the real world.
Yeah, no, I was shook too, just because what I had a feeling once we saw her in the dress, she was saying yes. Like if we didn't see her in the dress, that was the only time I feel like she would have said no. But for her, like Kenny said, she literally said, like, I'm ready, like I'm gonna marry him. And then for her to say no, that's what shook me. I really think Jill brought up a good point. I think the mom like put some doubt in her because like the mom was like, I mean, like he drinks, like that's not something our family does. Like we don't want that. Like basically like saying that she doesn't approve, but like she's gonna like support you type. And I really think that got to her. And then just like the interaction with the sister, where like the sister was also like, I don't approve of this. But I feel like the sister was more like, I don't approve of like the method of like Love is Blind, not so much like I don't approve of like Anton himself. Yeah, and then for her to say no, that really shook me. I think it was more like, yeah, I think she got like in her head about like what everybody else was thinking, and then that like pushed her to say no. Because I feel like her explanation kind of was like, you're not like the person I met in the pods. And I feel like the only thing that's different from the pods is like that you're seeing him like actually like when he drinks and stuff. But like his conversations and everything, like everything was still the same as the pods. Like he was still the same person, I feel like. So I definitely think she got in her head about it all. And I was shook.
Yeah, Allie's sister was definitely giving hater to me because that's the same sister that like they were talking about earlier that like she was having like problems with, but and then also her friends were also kind of giving like judgy energy, and I saw someone in the comments be like, oh, because someone was like made a TikTok how like it rubbed them the wrong way how they were talking about him being like a truck driver, which I'm like, they make good money from what I've heard, so that's very interesting for you to be judging about. And then someone was like, yeah, take advice from two divorced women, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I just feel like she just had a lot of negative opinions. And like Liz said, I don't really think it was much different. And I'm just curious on like, why didn't y'all talk about his behavior then? You know what I mean? But it's also like, I feel like she's not completely innocent either because it's like he literally said like going into the wedding he was like, does she cook, clean, all this stuff? No, but like I still love her, you know what I mean? There were some behaviors that he didn't like, but he was still willing to say yes. So I don't know, I think Allie honestly was just expecting someone with more money, and she didn't believe that he would give it to her. So I think that's really what it led down to.
Yeah, I did see stuff about like the friends being judgy, and I do agree that they were very judgy because I feel like also like travel nurses don't make that much compared to like other types of nurses. So I think it's like very interesting for her to like say that because I'm pretty sure they would honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if they're making around the same amount of money. And again, I just think that this season was very like superficial overall with like the money stuff, which we'll get into more when we get to other couples. But yeah, I was just like, I feel like what rubbed me wrong about them, it was we never saw them like actually talk about these issues. Like we saw her like get kind of like mad about him like going to strip clubs or like drinking too much and kind of like confronting him, quote unquote, kind of just saying like there's like missing stuff in the fridge, like that kind of stuff. But we never really saw them like sit down and have a conversation about it all. So I feel like, and I know like we don't see everything like it is like edited, but if we didn't even see like a conversation, that like leads me to believe that they probably like never really actually talk about that stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. Again, I don't think that she should have said no, but at the same time, like I do think, yeah, I just think that they were very like very odd couple to me.
I agree. And another thing that just real quick made me think she was gonna say yes is I just remember like when she was talking with her friends on like the actual wedding day, she was kind of like sticking up for him in a way because she was like, because I think her bridesmaids asked about kind of like his lifestyle again and the drinking. And Ali was like, well, that was just from a girlfriend. Like, I don't necessarily know how true that is or something along those lines. And she was like, another friend of his, fiance, was kind of encouraging her with nice words like the night before. So I'm just like, I really just think people got into her head and just Ali was looking for someone to make her kind of like a stay at home girlfriend, I guess, and just not literally do anything except do Pilates and get Botox and not be a nurse anymore. That's the vibe I'm kind of getting.
Yeah, and then to like go off of that real quick, she was like always like standing up for him, which is like what led me to think she was gonna say yes. Like even with the mom was like, our family like doesn't drink, and she was like I drink, like that kind of stuff. Like she was standing up for him, so I'm like, you were standing up for him, for the person that you met outside the pods, for then you to say no because he's not the person you met in the pods. I don't know. She rubbed me the wrong way personally. She just kind of gave like very superficial to me. But then our next couple is KB and Edmund. I personally was not surprised that KB said no, but I was surprised that she said no at the altar. I thought that she would have said no elsewhere, but honestly, I feel like out of Allie and KB, the two that we got like at the altar knows, I really like the way that she like handled it and everything, and how I think we really saw like the relationship dynamic between Edmund and her. She was always like the one who was kind of like, I don't want to say caring more, but like more like consoling more. I feel like we always saw in their arguments, and even at the wedding we saw that. And I'm glad that she, the way that she did it, because he does have like that trauma of like not being chosen, of like being left behind, like that kind of stuff, like foster care and his relationship with his mom. So I'm glad that like just the way that she handled it was very mature. And you can tell that she really did care for him, but like he just wasn't the person, or at least the person she needed in that moment. So I wasn't that surprised about them, but yeah, those are my thoughts on them.
I was surprised just because KB was giving the energy to me that like she just really wants to be married at the end of the day. And because the fact that they lasted all the way to the altar when I would have left him a long time ago. So that's why I was like, what? She said no. But like I think it generally is for the best because I feel like Edmund has a lot of things to work on. And I saw the atomic I saw the comment that kind of voice kind of like something I agree with there. Like Edmund needs to find someone that kind of matches his energy. Like I feel like they were like he probably has had to kind of hide his childlike side for a long time while growing up. So now that he's older, more stable, like graduated college, probably has a stable job, is a bit more stable now. He feels more safer to bring out that childlike side. And I like, and they said that he needs someone to match that. And I can agree with that. Like, I feel like it was very telling that, like, his teacher was there for him and his mom wasn't. And, like, his rollerblading skate team was there, but his mom wasn't. And, like, again, remember his mom trying to make up this whole thing. I did everything for my kids, but his teacher was saying, like, she had to buy him food, spent extra time to make sure he knew the material, stuff like that. So yeah, I just think he needs someone who will match his energy. And I think hopefully KB can like leave a good lasting effect on him in a good way. And honestly, if Edmund got his act together, like I saw, or they did talk, he was like, maybe later down the line. And I could low key see that if he like did a whole lot of work and maturing, if like 5 years down the line they reconnected. But yeah, I'm honestly glad KB said no because girl, do not marry into that family.
Yeah, I feel like I don't see them reconnecting just because I feel like she needs someone like more mature, and I don't see him getting to that level of maturity that she needs or like that she deserves as an individual, because she's a very strong woman. So yeah, I don't see them reconnecting in the future. I could see the possibility, but I feel like she needs someone like now and not like waiting for him, especially if he's still gonna, because I feel like he needs someone like Kenny said, like that childlike, like that quirkiness and everything. And I feel like she's just not giving that, like she's very like mature in her head, like knows what she wants and everything. And while yes, she does like laugh and everything, but she's not like quirky like he is, like she don't got to pick in her hair, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't end up getting married. I think it's very telling about the mom not being there because she had other things come up or whatever, and him kind of like making an excuse for her was kind of like sad and everything for me. But I'm glad that he had the teacher there, like he had people that like actually cared for him there, and I'm glad that they were there to support him like through it all. And obviously like through the wedding not happening. But yeah, overall, I'm glad that she said no, and honestly, I think it's better for like the both of them.
I agree. Maybe Edmund and Annie should date because they're both so quirky. And then let's see, we got KB, Ali. Who was the third one? I don't forgot already.
Jordan and Sparkle Megan. When I like after the whole KB and Edmund thing, I like paused because I was like, okay, how much time do I have left? I had 10 minutes left. I knew that I wasn't going to get the ending that I wanted. I will say, I do think she was like, the one thing that I did like that she did was that she did it one-on-one with Jordan. She like called it all off like one-on-one and not at the altar. I would have hated her for doing it at the altar, just because like the whole like the kid stuff and everything, and just yeah, because you know he would have been at the wedding. I feel like no, so I'm glad she did it one on one. But that's the only thing that I am defending her about, because her whole like reasoning was basically like they're on whole different like lifestyles with like we've been known this. Everything that she brought up was things that we've known. Like he's a single dad, he works too much, he's tired, he doesn't like travel like you do. Like he you have different lifestyles. Like we knew all of this. And I feel like she really got in her head about like the whole the money and like the lifestyle, and like yes, like she would have had to make sacrifices, but like he never asked her to make these sacrifices too. Like he never said like don't go to tennis, don't go do this, like you have to, like he never said this. Like this was all her taking it, like making that choice for herself. So I'm like, I don't know. I feel like her reasoning was like, we've known all of this. Like in the pods, he was so upfront about like being a single dad, having this child, like having to raise him, like doing all this stuff. He was so upfront about who he was as a person. So like, what changed? You know, I feel like she just got in her head about like, this is good. Like maybe I need this. And she didn't like fully, I guess, like see the reality of it all. And like reality hit her and she was like, I can't do this. But I'm like, we knew all of this. I don't know. That's what like made me mad. And I'm so glad that Jordan said that he regrets introducing her to his son. I was like, period. Preach.
Yeah, I see a lot of people being annoying about that comment, being like, he should have never introduced her to his son in the first place. But I'm like, this is an accelerated experience, you know what I mean? Like, they easily could have been married, and it's like, you want her to meet the son after they get married? Like, no, that's I feel like that would be even more confusing for a kid. But on the whole conversation of them ending it, I completely agree with everything Elizabeth is saying. It's just like, I feel like she was very much, she liked the idea of everything. She liked the idea of being a stepmom and kind of stepping into that role. But like, she didn't realize that, like, oh, like, even if you're a stepmom, like, you're dating someone who has a child 50% of the time, like, his life revolves around that child. So there are some sacrifices. And I was just like, girl, so you're gonna dump him because he can't do tennis at 10 a.m. Because like he also works. Like, girl, not everyone is as lucky as you to be a millionaire at in your early 30s. Like, girl, that is very rare. So I just feel like maybe you should just stick to your normal type that never works out and just live a very lonely life or something. Which low key, we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm just like, why didn't she just like maybe introduce her into his world or something? You know what I mean? Free up his time. Be like, hey, you want to get into this business with me or something? Like something like that. I'm sure Jordan would have been open to that. But I just think at the end of the day, she decided to be shallow and money and everything, and traveling was more important to her, which is crazy how life happens because Liz, why don't you tell the people what has come out since the last episode?
Going into this episode, I kind of saw like a spoiler, but not even a spoiler of the show, just like the cast now. And apparently, Sparkle Megan has a child and like a new man. And I'm like, yes, like move on, like do what you need to do. You know, I'm not saying like more this man for 2 years, but I'm like, it's only been 2 years and you already have a child. And I feel like in the pictures, the kid didn't look like that tiny. Like it wasn't like a newborn. Like it was like a couple months, you know? So I'm like, I don't know. Now I'm doing the math, like 9 months and everything. I feel like she moved off very quickly. But for her to like end, cause like I feel like she ended kind of like, I don't know if I'm like cut out to be a mom. Like is what she like kind of like ended with, because she was like, I don't know if like I'm ready to like give up like my lifestyle and like that kind of stuff to like, you know, like do all these things with like a kid and everything. But then for her to have a kid now, I think this reunion is going to be very, very interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting what we see for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like she's gonna say she's a mom at the reunion because I saw a TikTok of someone watching the trailer for it, and the female host, I'm blanking on her name at the moment, is like, so Megan, you one of these people, she wasn't sure you weren't sure that you're gonna be a mom, and then Megan's like, well, actually, I have something to tell you guys today. So I don't know if that's just editing and they're just trying to make it look crazy, but yeah, I'm like, Megan's gonna say she's a mom. And I'm just like, funny how life works out. She ends up with a child anyway. I'm curious on if this guy is a rich guy or not. And it just so happened to be that they had a child and she decided to keep it. But I have seen some speculation where people are like, well, maybe he's the nanny, or some people are like, maybe it's like her sister's child, and like that's just like someone, but like I'm like, I'm gonna believe it's her baby just for the sake of it, just for the drama of it all, because that would really be like, wow, life hits you hard. But I truly think she fumbled Jordan like horribly. Like he looks better than the man that was in the pictures, I'll just say. um and yeah, and then also I did see that like she did end up buying like $1 million house at some point. So it's just like, I don't know. I'm just like, girl, I feel like you just sacrifice, or you just like go of a really good opportunity to build like a really solid build it family, and building a whole new life with Jordan over some shallow things when life is so unpredictable at times. And I don't know. She is probably happy with her life, but like you could have been happy with Jordan. Is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I am Team Jordan all the way. He was always my favorite of the guys. Yeah, I hope he finds someone out there that like is also wanting, to fit into that like lifestyle and everything. Someone normal, because she wasn't normal with all that money she had. I will say though, on like the nanny thing and everything, I just thought it was interesting because like when she was like talking to the other guy, the other rich man, I don't know his name, irrelevant, but they were talking about like, oh, like yeah, traditional values, like stay at home mom type vibe. But I'm like, you want to be stay at home mom, but you want to have tennis at 10 a.m. So like this isn't giving like the traditional values that you're talking about stay at home mom. I don't know. I was just thinking about all of that. And I just think it's very interesting. I think overall this season, there was like a lot of just like from the get-go when like people were asking like what's your ethnicity? What's your race? Like it was very superficial, and I feel like it wasn't very like the blind of Love is Blind, especially the way like Joe and whatever her name was, I forgot her name, but like just all of that, like it was very like these people were giving very superficial.
I agree, which I'm just like that's I feel like actually that's a whole nother rant for another day, so I'm not even gonna get into it. But I'm super excited for the reunion. It comes out next Wednesday. Honestly, I'm most interested for like the Megan of it all, and honestly, like Nick and Annie. Like I just need to see more about that from both of their ends at the reunion, because I know they're gonna talk about it. And honestly, Joe and Madison too, because like Joe already has a new girlfriend who literally looks like Madison, but like skinnier, not in like a bad way, but like just smaller. So yeah, that yeah, people are accusing Joe of being like a clout chaser because like he has a podcast and stuff. So like he just came on the show to like promote that. But anyways, we'll get to all that. That's all we have to say about Love is Blind.
I completely forgot the name, but for the girl who broke up with the Asian man, because she was in like the pictures of the cast reunion, she's in there, and he's also in there, but like she's in there. So I'm very interested how this all plays out.
Yeah, and I think there's been some rumblings about her after the show too acting a mess. So we'll see what comes to light during this reunion.
And then the other show that we were watching, of course, Tuesday, you guys, Dancing with the Stars, Wicked Night. And I just want to say, overall, Wicked Night, I love Wicked as is, but I loved it even more seeing it as like a theme and seeing how like the cast. I feel like honestly, overall, everyone's choreographies were like really good. Like they really like embraced like the storytelling of like the musical and just the outfits, the songs, the dances. I think everyone did a really great job overall. But I think what we want to discuss a little bit is who went home. Because let's say we were shocked. We were shocked. Riley and I forgot his name. Pentatonic singer. Yes, Riley and Scott, justice for them. While I will say, I don't think Scott would have lasted very long. Like if he didn't go home this episode, he was gonna go home next episode. I just feel like he's not very like coordinated, like he's has a very long body, and I feel like he doesn't know how to like control it when he dances, which like trust me, I'm not judging because I can't dance for anything. But for them to go home, yeah, that was shocking. I really thought it would have been Andy. Yeah, I know Kennedy has some thoughts.
And it should have been Andy. Like literally, I should have recorded my thoughts or recorded my reaction when I saw the elimination. I was like, what? What? Not. I said, not the old man still here. He's actually not even that old. He's in his 50s, you guys, and he's only a couple years older than Elaine. And it's like crazy how like people are giving Elaine the same treatment, which just goes to show how when you're a woman, you got to work 10 times harder than a man ever will have to do to be a favorite. And like she's working through her injury, can barely move her foot. Yeah, she's not getting the same praise as Andy. And I feel like that just tells you everything about society. And I will say, Wicked Night was probably his best dance so far. We actually saw him move a bit, but I'm just like, he should be gone. And I think honestly, Andy is surprised he's still here as well, which he should be because he's not safe. And I think low key, I wouldn't be surprised if he's low key ready to go home. But I'm just like, I don't know. I get it that Dancing with the Stars is all about, getting newbies and seeing their improvement every week. But like, I feel like it gets to a point where it's like, you are kind of being held back and you're just kind of there out of pity. Like, that doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? And you can bear it, like, it gets to a point where it's like, even though Scott can't control his body, at least he can move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's more like we're at that point of improvement, and I feel like their dances have been the same. If anybody's dances are the same, it's them and not girl meets boy meets girl world, boy meets that one.
Topanga,
Topanga.
Daniela,
Yeah,
Danielle,
there we
whatever.
go. But yeah, but I am low-key a little scared. I don't know if you've seen this, Kennedy, but on Tuesday it's Andy's birthday. So if Andy doesn't go home, I'm scared for who is gonna go home because it better not be Elaine. After she was up in the sky, and also the way Carrie Ann was crying over her dance, this is the first time I feel like we've seen her cry, and she's like all dramatic and everything, and she didn't give it a 10. That was really interesting.
No, because I literally texted Liz. I was like, why is this girl crying? Like, I love the dance too, but like, it wasn't giving cry worthy to me. I was like, Carrie Ann, you are so dramatic, girl. Like, I feel like all through her, every dance, she just, her energy, I mean, her emotions be going up and down.
But just know, you guys, we will be tuned in on Tuesday. We will be recording our reactions for who goes home because I'm a little scared for some of these people.
Yeah, maybe we can record it and then like insert it into the episode post editing. But yeah, I'm just like the Andy fans, you guys actually make me mad. Genuinely, why do you guys want him here? To be honest, he's not even, and I feel like when I see him dance, I'm not even focused on him because he's not moving. I'm focused on Emma because she is very like outperforming him. Like she is dominating him on that dance floor because he can't dance because he just literally can't, like his body won't let him, and that's fine. So let him go home before he has to be sent home in an ambulance because he done busted both of his knees. Please, please put us as the viewers out of our misery, put Andy out of our misery, and let's stop sending home actually talented people who are putting in the work. And I'm not diminishing the work he's putting in, but like we're halfway through. Like I feel like it's cute on the beginning, but we're halfway through. I want to see some good dances with good improvement, and he's not gonna give that. So Andy fans, if you're an Andy fan listening, it's not a safe space. It's really not.
Kennedy will find out who you are and she will come and take your devices away on Tuesday night.
Exactly that.
And now we're gonna go ahead and get into our song of the week. We're in a Halloween mood, of course, because it's a spooky episode. And my Halloween song is "This Is Halloween" from the Nightmare Before Christmas.
And my song is Calling All the Monsters by China and McClain. Like it's a Halloween classic. Like it's not Halloween season, fall season if you're not playing that song.
Exactly. Now you got me wanting to rewatch those spooky Ant Farm episodes.
So good. But now that we listen to our Halloween songs, it's now time to get into the spooky spirit. And we're going to be talking about some scary stories that we found on the internet. They will be linked down below, like always. For me, I have a paranormal story, and then I have a story that's kind of like the vibe of sometimes humans are scarier than the paranormal. So I can go first with my paranormal story. So it is coming from the paranormal subreddit, and it is from the user main reputation 6604, and like always, it will be link down below. So the title of this is called My Haunted Childhood. Hold on, gotta push my glasses back. Hello all. I apologize as this will be a long one. I am a 25-year-old woman. I grew up an orphan, raised by my grandmother in a house that seems to soak up all the grief and loss felt in the building over the last 40 years. This home has seen addiction, domestic abuse, death, self harm, and much, much more. There is a specific room that I believe is the epicenter of all the activity that comes from this house. It was my childhood bedroom, my dad's bedroom. It once belonged to my uncle who died at 19. This room has been rented to plenty of people going through the lowest points in their lives, and you can feel it when you step into it even now. I was around 3 when I first noticed the activity. It started with the footsteps from that room sounding like a grown man pacing back and forth. My grandmother always told me it was just the house settling, but it always seemed too rhythmic. We'll ignore that word. We can't keep a light in there to save our lives. All the bulbs burn and all the lamps end up on the floor broken within a week or two of putting them in there. Shadow figures would watch me play from the doorway, and the closet door simply could not stay closed. Eventually, I would move my toy chest against the door to avoid waking up in the middle of the night to that door slowly creaking open. It was a nightly occurrence that would later be experienced by every single person to occupy that room. The activity was fairly minimal up until I entered middle school. That was the year my depression became suffocating. The activity would increase in frequency and slowly start up in other areas of our house as well. Doors slamming on their own, voices of the dead being heard calling out to my grieving grandmother, the feelings of hands grasping your own or rubbing your back in a soothing way as you cry yourself to sleep. I grew up believing my dead relatives were still here with us, and it was a comfort. As a teenager entering high school, my belief changed. At first, I thought the thundering footsteps trampling down the stairs into the kitchen, originating from that room, belonged to my father or uncle. I recall that same sound in the mornings as they would barrel downstairs for breakfast. This particular experience would happen regularly, and plenty of people would hear it over the years. And yeah, maybe it was them, but I have a suspicion something or someone is mimicking the sounds from long ago as a trick because the voices of the dead were no longer the only voices my grandmother was hearing calling out to her. When I was 15, I started spending less and less time at home, but my voice never seemed to leave with me as my grandmother regularly heard me calling to her from the opposite side of the house during the height of the activity. The moment she first heard me calling out is when things changed completely. Fixtures started falling from the ceiling as we walked under them. Figures started to become frequent visitors in the dark, steps circling your bed at night, doors locking on you, things going missing, time would start to get lost for us, and I started to get sick. I had to get my GED as I was missing so much school from an illness doctors had trouble figuring out. Later, we would find out my kidney was one of many issues that popped up seemingly overnight. I will not presume all of life's problems come from this house, but I will note that the timing was a bit coincidental. I only put it with everything because I will not completely write it off as not being partly caused by everything going on in this house. It has been a decade from all those experiences, and now we live a fairly boring life in this house. We cleanse that room every couple of months and I've stopped renting it out altogether. I still see the occasional shadow person and things still go missing from time to time, but now we know that is when we are due for a spiritual cleaning of sorts. The last one was this summer after I showed the room to a friend and she was scratched by something inside. I am concerned as this is the first time someone was actually attacked by whatever is in that room, but things have been quiet since, so I'm hoping it was simply a one off. Thank you for listening to my story, and let's hope writing this today doesn't spike any activity.
So why haven't they moved? that's that's my question. I feel it's time to, sell the house, get out of there, find somewhere else to go. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into my views on the paranormal because we'll be here all day talking about the other side. But I definitely do think there is truth into bad energy and that affecting like a lot of things in the physical realm. So I definitely do think if it's not necessarily like a ghost, but just all the negative energy that is just in those walls in that room, just like is like affecting everybody. And like I definitely would not be surprised if there is some negative energy from one of the people that used to stay there that was left behind, and that's like is what mimicking to your grandmother. And like an evil spirit energy that was left that attacks your friend. So definitely maybe look into more than just cleansing it. I would say get a priest out there, get whatever negative energy is in that room, maybe like fully redo that room, fresh energy into that room. But there's only one comment on this, and I really liked kind of like their thoughts about it, but they just said, sounds to me like the negative energy from that room was making you sick. What's more, your intuitive perception and past family may have made the encounters more tolerable, but it seems a mimic might have dominated the space more than anything else. Growing up, we all knew which room was the most haunted. It was the dining room, which at one time served as a TV room. One evening, I passed out watching TV and was rudely awakened by the ghost. That moment was very traumatic, and luckily, I was a teen by then, so I was not as traumatized by the incident. But I think more of the story is sometimes rooms can just hold negative energy, and they can really manifest into other things, and that's very spooky. And girl, at this point, move, demolish the house. I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like after a certain point, even painting it, doing all that stuff might not suffice. So yeah, I think it might be time to move. I think it might have been time a while before that to move, but who am I to tell you? And my first story is also a paranormal story. So this is from the user Jason Hebert one, and he posted this 7 months ago, so it's somewhat recent, so you could say. But it's titled, "I have an insane paranormal story I've held onto for over 30 years and has many, many witnesses. For some reason, I never thought about posting my story here. I've posted it on YouTube comments before, and I think I've talked about it on my YouTube show before. Unrelated to paranormal, I interview families with missing children or family members to help you get the word out and bring them home. I'm I am a very normal, simple 41-year-old guy with zero history of any mental illnesses apart from a little bit of anxiety. No bad medical history, drug use, etc. Drank in my teens and 20s and when I would go out to bars and stuff, but never had any bad habits or anything like that. Anyway, dot dot dot. It started when I was 5 or 6, which would have been 1988 to 1989. I would see what I would call the bloody man walking up and down the stairs in my house. I can't remember his face, not sure if it's because I never looked at it or he didn't have one. I just remember it would never be middle of the night, but more like bedtime that this would always happen. He had a bandage on his head that was bloody and a hospital gown. I remember having a feeling that I knew this wasn't right, but I wasn't scared. Not sure if the lack of fear was due to being told not to be scared somehow, or if I was young, I just didn't know to be scared. Anyway, this person I would see, I would come to learn later in life, was my uncle. He had been beaten in the head with a baseball bat, came home, brain swelled in his sleep, and was taken to the hospital by the family in the morning, where he died several days later. This was August of 1982. I was born in December of 1983. There's much more to the story, both his life and that night itself, but I'll hold off on that for now. I saw the bloody man somewhere in the range of 15 to 30 to maybe 30 times. Then my mom and I moved out of there to get our own place. This was my grandfather's house, and I was gone for 5 years. Around 12 or 13 years old, I moved back to that house. While I never saw the bloody man again, it was far from the last paranormal encounter I would have in that house. After being back around 5 or 6 months or so, one day I was showing my little sister how to play a Sonic the Hedgehog game. And as I'm explaining it to her, as clear as day, a female voice says her name. My sister instantly got up and went to the door and said, "Yeah, Ma?" And I was frozen, solid in fear. This was for two reasons. The first was I knew for a fact that that wasn't my mom's voice that said my sister's name. It was my grandmother's, who had been dead for 10 years. The second thing I knew that my little sister didn't seem to realize was that that voice had not come from downstairs. It came from right at our feet by the foot of the bed. I just sat there, frozen in fear, while my sister yelled for my mom, who of course said she had been washing dishes and never called her. My sister then sulked while walking back to bed. "What's the matter?" I asked. She said, "I hate those stupid stairs. The bloody man is scary." So I started asking her who had told her about the bloody man. Was it any of my friends, etc., etc.? She was in shock that I knew who the bloody man was and was crying for me to believe her that she really sees him, and none of my friends had spilled the secret to her. She was about 5 at this time, same age as I used to see him. The next part of the story involves all my friends. Every sleepover, after hearing my grandmother's voice, my bedroom's door started shaking, thinking it might be my stepfather who would open it as it was shaking, and no one would be standing there. Upon realizing the shaking would terrify us, so every sleepover for about a year, the door would shake and these horrible claw like scratching sounds would go down the door. My friends and I would fight to hide in the corner on the bed while it would happen. So if you're keeping count, that's me and my sister who both saw the bloody man and heard the female voice, and three of my friends who witnessed the shaking and clawing at the door. 5 people. But believe it or not, the last part of the story gets even crazier. We sold the house and moved to a couple cities over about a year later. One thing I forgot to mention is the reason I moved back at 12 or 13 is my grandfather had a bunch of mini strokes and was in a wheelchair, so my mom moved back in to take care of him. Well, after we moved away, I told my mom it surprised me that she sold her childhood house, and she talked about all the bad memories she had there that had replaced the good. And then she said, plus, Grampy started creeping me out towards the end. It turns out he had started telling her, your brother's still here. Every night, up and down those goddamn stairs, up and down, up and down. He saw the bloody man too, his son. But that's not the craziest part. About 7 to 8 years after selling the house, the guy that bought it saw my uncle in a gym and a beelined it towards him, demanding to know what the hell is in that house. He and his wife and two of his kids kept seeing Uncle around the house. I made it a point to walk by the house to try to catch someone coming out since I heard the gym story, and one day I caught the youngest son leaving. I introduced myself and asked him about what they saw, and he said he was too young at the time, but his mom, dad, and two brothers would always see my uncle behind them in the mirrors in the house. They got rid of the mirrors and it stopped, he said. I don't quite understand that part because mirrors had nothing to do with it for me, but still, that's 3 people in my family, 3 friends, and 4 people of a different family that I essentially saw the same thing or heard it. I give anything to learn exactly what the heck went on in that house all those years. Anyways, that's my story.
Girl. Couldn't be me. I feel like it's definitely so interesting because I feel like paranormal entities, I feel like when you're younger, you're more what's the word? You're more say it for me, Liz.
Susceptible.
Yeah, you're more that word to that stuff because you're younger, you're not closed off yet from that world or whatever. Because I feel like once you're older, you're obviously closed off. But I'm just like, listen, if all these people having the same accounts without even really talking to each other, then like something going on in that house. I think your brother or no, your uncle is stuck somehow, energy wise, in that house, and he needs some help to cross over and like finally rest. Um, so yeah. And I guess it is, well, I was gonna say maybe it's kind of sweet that like your grandpa gets to see his son again, but like maybe not in a bloody form, you know what I mean? That's kind of, yeah, that would be kind of scary. But I feel like it also makes sense for like old people to see that stuff because like maybe because they're closer to death, maybe I don't know. But yeah, that's just very interesting. I wonder if the mirror things is like, I know like if you have two mirrors across from each other, like that's a bad juju because like it can serve as like a vortex. Maybe he's like traveling through the mirrors or something. But yeah, I definitely think the uncle was stuck and he needs help getting out.
I definitely think he's like not, just chilling. I think he's struggling if he's like all bloody and everything. Like it's definitely like a spirit or soul, whatever you want to call it, that's like not resting right. Um I am very intrigued about the mirror thing. I wish we would have like found out more about how they were placed because I have heard about that, about how like having too many mirrors or having like a cross and everything and that kind of stuff. But I wonder if there was like just mirrors in general, like was it like a room with like surrounding mirrors? Like I wonder more about that part, especially because like he said, it didn't have anything to do with like the accident and everything that happened to him. But yeah, I think it's definitely scary, spooky, especially since everybody was seeing it. And like I feel like those stories when it's like, wait, you know what I'm talking about? Like you've also seen this and like there's been no conversation about it or anything, but like they know. I feel like those are very believable, and also like they have some truth to them because it's not just like a rumor mill type thing. It's something that everybody's experienced. And the way that it was like they'd seen the same stuff like him and the sister, that got me.
Yeah, that when stories are like that, it's definitely like, ooh, that's a bit scary. But yeah, I definitely think he's stuck. I wonder if it's kind of a way it's like he has something like his, like, you know how they always say like old souls have like unfinished business. So I wonder if that's kind of like why his spirit is still lingering around and he's like showing himself, so like people can like help him. Maybe, I don't know, it's just a food for thought.
That is exactly how I also interpreted that part.
Now, my next story has to do with something that's scarier than the unseen, and that is people we can see, aka humans, and especially men, because sometimes they can be just as freaking scary. So this one is coming from True Scary Stories by the username YMurph. Again, will be linked down below. And this is kind of an oldie. It was posted 260 days ago. And it is called A Man Watched Me as I Slept. In 2013, my family moved to a very tough area of Mobile, Alabama. We moved there to follow a football coach for my brother. We rented the house from an older woman. The house smelled as you would expect from an old house that used to be occupied by an older lady. It smelled like old Chanel number 5 and old carpet. There were only 3 bedrooms in the house, including the master bedroom. There were also 2 bathrooms. I have 3 siblings, 2 parents, and 1 cousin staying in the household on an average day. The house was pretty packed, but we were there for only a year and it was cheap. My cousin also followed the football coach there as well. To ensure eligibility, we had to have a place to stay near the school. This included my uncle, my cousin's dad, to get an apartment. The apartment had no good furniture, but enough to prove that they were living there. Since there was no good furniture, he ended up staying with us most of the time. My uncle would occasionally stay at the apartment, but they didn't allow pets. My uncle's boxer would stay with us all the time. I was only 7 or 8 years old, but I remember this all too well. I had this weird issue with fabric that I think looks old, so I always slept on our couch in the living room that I knew my mom bought a few years prior. Above the couch I slept on was a window with many blinds that were always closed, so I would never have expected this would happen. One night I drifted off to sleep as I always did, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I always slept with the TV on, running recorded versions of the Ninja Turtles because it helped me sleep. If it wasn't for the TV, I would have never noticed. I woke up and looked at my TV and then rolled over to sleep again. That's when I noticed 2 eyes staring right back at me through the gaps of the blinds, looking down on me. As a 7-year-old little girl, I screamed and ran all the way to my parents' room crying. My dad is a bodybuilder and is very large, so he shot up and went outside. When he opened the door, he saw no one, and I ended up sleeping with my parents. No one really believed me after the whole ordeal, so it was all forgotten. I never slept on the same couch ever again. My brother, though, drifted off to sleep on that couch at the practice one day. He ended up sleeping through the night. Around 2 in the morning, my brother woke me up and asked me what I saw that one night. I explained what I saw and told me he just saw the same thing. We woke up my parents and told them that my brother saw the same thing I did, and my dad went outside. No one was there, but there were huge footprints where he stood. The footprints proved that we weren't lying and we were honest about what we saw. The area was very dangerous, so we just assumed it was a peeper. We never called the cops because we never saw who it was, and if they ever tried to break in, we had our dad to protect us. My dad is very easy to wake up, and it just takes a yell to get him awake. My brother came up with a new solution to the peeper problem. My brother ended up moving the blinds pointing upward instead of down. This meant that the gaps in the blinds would show the ceiling rather than us, and we would never have another issue for a while. One night, we were out of the house for a birthday party around the same time we would be asleep, and I accidentally left the TV on as I would every single night. When we arrived back home, our house was an absolute mess. As I said before, we had my uncle's boxer staying with us most of the time, and we let him roam the house when we weren't home. It looked like someone tried to go through the front door but was unsuccessful. There were claw marks from the boxer trying to get to someone on the other side. At the back door, there were chips off the frame of the door as though someone tried to break in with the crowbar. The pages to my library book were torn, my backpack was rummaged through, and my homework was shredded. My parents concluded that whoever broke in was after me or my brother. This was because he only really ever saw us. I thank God every day that we were not there. I have no idea what the person wanted or who they were after. Shortly after we moved back to our old house in a safe area, nothing ever happened again.
Hell no. um, that I feel like hits more for me because I'm like, that's like not that the other stuff isn't real, because like I do believe in paranormal things, but that's like a human being. Yeah, like Kenny said, humans are more scary, men are more scary. That is terrifying. I didn't expect it to get to the part of the like breaking in and everything, because at first I was like, oh, okay, like the blind thing. I have heard that if you like face them up, like if you're looking out, you can't really see in. I have heard of that before. Now I'm scared to go into my living room and sit on the couch because our patio doors, the blinds normally like open normally. Like even at night, like we don't really shut them. I'm gonna shut those all the way now. I am terrified to be in the living room. That is so scary that he like went in and he like looked through their stuff. That's what really got me. Like looked through their backpacks and everything. Yeah, that is actually so scary. I'm so glad that they also weren't home. Yeah, humans are actually terrifying.
Yeah, but God's timing is always right, or whatever they be saying, because he knew to let y'all have a sleepover because he knew this crazy man was gonna come. He must have really been watching this house because I assume the parents were out since the kids were at a sleepover, and it's just so scary because he was probably like watching this house for like a while, and like he saw like, oh, like doesn't look like the parents are home, but I see the TV is on. Like that is so scary. So yeah, I'm glad everything turned out okay. I'm just like, wow, men are so scary. Imagine a world with no men. It would probably be so safe. But I'm just like, ugh, like I couldn't even imagine the chills. I feel like I would have chills running down my body realizing like he tried to get me. Like he thought I was here at home alone and he tried to get me. But yeah, I'm just so glad, like we said, that they were not there. And wow, it's just it was the fact that like he was rummaging through everything, and that's just like, just I would feel so violated. Like you were in my space. First you watched me sleep, and then you're just in my space when we weren't there. Like that is so, I got the chills.
No, like emphasis on the chills because I can't imagine being in that position and just like always having that in the back of your mind. Like someone that heard the story here, I like am gonna have that in the back of my mind today. That is so terrifying. And like, yes, I do think he was watching. Now I'm like scared to like leave my TV on in the living room when I'm home alone. Um, Wow. Yeah. I'm at a loss of words. It is a scary world out here, you guys. Like actually terrifying. And my next spooky story, I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up, you guys. So apologies if I just like am not reading how I should be, but I found a paranormal story. So like there's like this legend in like Mexico about La Llorona. It's like the weeping women. I know there's like a scary movie about it, but I found this thread on Reddit, and it's this person that kind of like talks about that story and then like their experience. So this is from Constant Soft 6335, and they posted it 9 months ago, and it's titled La Llorona, the Wailing Weeping Woman. I'm sure most of you have heard of the legend of the Wailing Weeping Woman. If not, it's one of the most popular urban legends from Mexico. This story has been told differently from generations. The legend goes that a village woman married a decent, wealthy man. They had 3 kids together later on. As the kids grew, he grew more bored of his own wife and life. He stopped giving her attention. She found out about his affair with another woman at some point in time. The woman grew mad. In her mind, he deserved punishment. The way she did it was by luring her 3 children to a river and drowned them all. After realizing what she had done, she wept and called for them. Mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? My kids, where are my kids? Growing up in a Mexican culture, some kids were heavily traumatized being told this story from adults. This story would only be told if the kids were misbehaving, and the adults would say she would take us away if we were to misbehave. At least on my end. My end too. Even as a kid, I figured it was fake until I experienced it myself. Backstory. My parents were born in a well-known town in Mexico. They were able to become U.S. citizens as soon as my mom got pregnant with my older brother. With that being mentioned, my grandparents stayed in Mexico. A tradition we had as a family was to stay over at my grandparents' house, my mom's side, every weekend. We were 4 kids in total. Me being the second oldest, my grandparents lived in a quiet neighborhood and everyone knew each other there. Every weekend, my family would stay there, but one weekend in particular was different. My parents ended up crossing back to the US, I think to attend a wedding or something. I don't remember. So me and my 3 siblings were left to stay there. Of course, we loved staying with our grandparents. Context. In their living room, they had a set of 2 futons. Every night, my grandma would set them up, one for us and the other for my grandma to keep an eye on us. though the youngest was 2 to 3 years old and would sleep with her. That left the oldest, me, and the third sibling sleeping on the other. This one was faced in front of a small window covered in a sheer beige curtain. The house was built with what's called a galleria, like a gallery. Basically, there was no front yard, but more like a patio, fully fenced. They would leave the light on every night so anyone who would pass by, you would see their shadows. I was roughly around 7 or 8 years old. The year was likely to be in 2006 in the middle of spring or summer. I remember this night so clear because I was extremely scared. My grandma had this entertainment center in the middle of the living room that had those box dome light TVs with a radio on top of it. It showed a digital time of hour in green. I had trouble sleeping. I kept watching the time go by and nothing seemed to work. The radio read 1:14. I closed my eyes, shut to force to sleep. Then I heard the most chilling thing. Mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? Her voice echoed in the galeria. I was frozen in place. I started sweating. Everyone was asleep. I looked back at the radio. It stayed at 1:14. There was a scream a minute after, then it went quiet. Me remembering the legend being told, I was scared shitless and went under the covers and prayed. I tried waking up my older brother, but he wouldn't wake up or he would shrug me off. I took off the cover since I stopped hearing her. But on the window, I can see someone approaching from the galleria. At this point, I knew my soul left my body. I watched the silhouette of a woman slowly approaching and stopped directly at the window. I looked back at the radio. 1:14 still. I don't know how long I stared at the window. That person didn't move whatsoever, just faced the window. I immediately went back under the covers and whispered to go away. I'm not sure how long this went for. I was drenched in sweat, so I uncovered myself. I looked back at the window, no shadow, no silhouette, just the fence's reflection. I looked back at the radio and the time changed to 2. I think about this experience 19 years later. Logically, one may think it would have been a woman on drugs or drunk, but that neighborhood was a quiet one. As a matter of fact, if someone were to hear where they needed help, everyone will come out of their homes to their aid. The cherry on top is that my grandma's house was built near a creek.
Girl, you couldn't pay me to go back to grandma's house. Like, I don't know. I feel like low key, I feel like Mexico is like an epicenter for like a lot of like paranormal stuff. So like I'm not surprised he saw some things and we know that that lore, that legend is very prominent. I'm just like, ooh, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad she didn't take you.
No, because that's like a story that when I was younger, no, 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 I was always scared of that story. But then the fact that the house was like near a creek too, I think that's what like really like solidified it for me and just really sealed the deal. Because it was like, okay, like any house, like okay, but near a creek and she drowned her kids in a creek. I don't know. I feel like the coincidences are too close.
I agree. It's like something that creek, that water is carrying her energy, her body, and she was checking on you. And whew, girly, I couldn't even imagine just I feel like a lot of these stories we've read is like people going to sleep and then like waking up and just seeing something. I'm like, girl, I could not even imagine just being woken out of your dead sleep and you see someone. Like, I would have just turned over, but like, I don't see nothing, and go back to sleep.
No, because catch me tonight, I'll be pulling an all-nighters. Sleep will not be I'm scared for my sleep tonight, you guys.
Girl, at that point, you're gonna end up seeing things because your mind's gonna be like, I'm not used to being up so late, and then you're gonna start seeing shadows, and then you're gonna go crazy, and then we're gonna have to take you into a mental hospital, and then and then things are just gonna spiral.
So you guys, when something happens to me, just go make sure you check out Kennedy. I think she might have had something to do with this. She has like an elaborate plan here. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be paranormal, but I feel like she's gonna be behind it.
JK, but I hope you guys really enjoyed our spooky stories. This was so much fun. Hopefully one day we can like um build the podcast up enough and then like you guys can send us your own spooky stories. Cause I feel like people like everyday, well, people on Reddit are everyday people, but you know what I mean. Just I feel like people you wouldn't expect would have some really spooky paranormal stories, and this was really fun. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, and make sure to comment down below all your thoughts on these stories, or if you guys have some stories, start dropping them down. We love listening to them, love reading them. I might not be a scary movie watcher, but I will read your stories.
Yes, and see, I'm a scary movie watcher, and even some of these stories gave me the chills.
And without further ado, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, the spooky episode of the Girls Lounge podcast. Make sure you guys are following us on all of our socials. They're all linked down in the show notes as always. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.